Good morning to all of you who are watching today's video. May God bless each one of you, your work, your family, and the dreams you are nurturing in your heart. And especially, may He pour abundant grace on those who leave comments below. For every word you write not only connects us, but also stands as a testimony of the faith and love we share together. Today, we come to a simple yet powerful story. The story of Alex, a young and courageous CEO, and Tuna, the woman he wholeheartedly loves. This is not a story about luxury, nor is it about an extravagant banquet in a fancy restaurant. It all began in the place most familiar to Alex, his family farm. The morning sun rose slowly above the hills, painting the sky with a golden, soft glow. In the quiet town nearby, life moved always at its own gentle rhythm. But on that day, the story of a young woman named Tuna shifted quietly into a new chapter. Tuna once had been a hopeful, bright young wife. She carried the joy of becoming a mother within her, believing that her little family would grow stronger with time. Yet, life was not as kind as she hoped. When her husband learned she was pregnant, instead of sharing her happiness, he abandoned her. The betrayal left scars not only on her heart, but also on her trust in the world around her. Alone, rejected, and pregnant, she faced days filled with sorrow, uncertainty, and fear. In the middle of this storm, Alex appeared. Alex was a man of quiet strength, CEO by title, yet human deeply in heart. Though he lived in town with his sister and mother, he owned a family farm outside the city, Just. That farm had long stood as a place of renewal and life, a symbol of peace and honest labor. When Alex learned about Tuna's situation, something in his soul stirred, not out of pity, but out of responsibility and compassion. He decided to let Tuna stay at the farm, offering her safe shelter where she could rest and prepare for the birth of her child. The farm became a haven. Its fields whispered with the wind, its animals lived in harmony with the land, and its wooden farmhouse offered warmth against the uncertainty of the outside world. At first, Tuna was reluctant. She had been hurt so deeply that trusting seemed anyone impossible. Yet Alex's presence was different. He did not press her with questions, nor did he judge her past. He simply provided what she needed: shelter, food, and reassurance that she was not alone. Slowly, a fragile thread of trust began to form between them. Every weekend, Alex would visit the farm, bringing supplies and checking on her inn. Sometimes he stayed longer, helping with repairs or tending to the animals. Other times, he simply listened when Tuna needed to talk. In those quiet evenings when the sun set over the fields and the world seemed to slow down, Alex caught himself often watching her. This woman who had been broken, yet still carried within her a strength that amazed him. Meanwhile, Tuna found herself breathing easier in the peace of the farm. Each morning, she woke to the sound of roosters crowing and leaves rustling in the breeze. With her hands, she nurtured the garden, preparing food not only for herself, but also for the child she carried. Though her heart carried still pain, she began to feel something she thought was lost: hope. And so the story began, not with a grand moment or a dramatic twist, but with acts simple of kindness, evenings quiet in the countryside, and the silent promise that life could still offer second chances. The day arrived sooner than expected. Early in the morning, Alex received the call from the farm. Tuna was in labor. Without a second thought, he rushed from town, his heart pounding faster than his footsteps. He had seen her struggle through pregnancy, had brought her food and medicine, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. When he arrived, Tuna was pale, her hands trembling as pain overtook her. Without hesitation, Alex carried her to his car and drove straight to the hospital. Every second felt like an eternity. His grip tightened on the steering wheel and his anxious gaze shifted toward her, praying she would be safe. Hours passed in the stark white hospital corridors. Alex waited, pacing back and forth, each cry from behind the doors tightening his chest. At last, the sound of a baby's first cry filled the air, and a nurse emerged holding a small bundle wrapped in soft blankets. "It's a boy," she said gently with a smile. Alex exhaled, realizing only then how long he had been holding his breath. He followed the nurse into the room, where Tuna lay exhausted yet glowing with quiet joy. In her arms rested her son, tiny, fragile, yet so full of life. "Henry," she whispered softly. "His name will be Henry." Alex stood near the bed, watching the scene unfold. The child was not his by blood, yet something stirred deep inside him. Warmth filled his chest as he looked at the boy's tiny fingers curling instinctively around Tuna's hand. In that moment, Alex understood. Family was not always about bloodlines. Sometimes it was about choice, about love freely given. When Tuna was discharged, Alex personally drove her and baby Henry back to the farm. The farmhouse had been prepared, clean linens, warm meals, everything ready for their return. As he helped her settle back in, Alex caught sight of Henry sleeping peacefully in his crib, his small chest rising and falling with each breath. Without thinking, Alex smiled. In the days that followed, Alex visited more often. He brought groceries, medicine, and little things Henry might need. But more than that, he stayed. He fed the animals, repaired the wooden fence, and sometimes when Tuna was too tired, he cradled Henry in his arms, pacing gently around the farmhouse until the baby slept. Tuna watched him quietly during those moments. She had known kindness before, but never like this. Alex's care was not born of duty alone. It came with patience, gentleness, and something deeper she dared not name. And Alex found himself struggling with emotions he could no longer deny. Every time Henry's tiny hand wrapped around his finger, every time Tuna looked at him with those soft, weary eyes, something within him shifted. He realized what he felt was not just compassion. It was not mere responsibility. It was love, unexpected, undeniable, and growing stronger each day. Yet Alex kept it hidden. He was a man of principle, afraid Tuna might mistake his feelings for pity, or worse, for obligation born of her vulnerability. So he said nothing. Instead, he poured his emotions into actions, into the way he cared for Henry, into the quiet presence he gave Tuna, into the countless small sacrifices he thought she might never notice. But Tuna noticed. She noticed in the way his eyes softened when he looked at Henry, in the way his footsteps lingered on the porch before leaving, as if he longed to stay longer. She noticed in the warmth that filled the farmhouse whenever he was around. Their hearts, both wounded in different ways, had begun moving toward one another, quietly, gently, like two rivers that would eventually find their way to meet. Nights in the small town were quiet, almost too quiet for Alex. After spending hours at the farm helping Tuna, he returned home to the modest house he shared with his mother and sister. They often asked how Tuna was doing, how the baby was, and Alex answered with calm words, though deep inside, his heart was never calm. He sat by his window, staring at the dim streetlights, thinking of Tuna. Her gentle smile, her quiet strength, the way she held Henry as if the whole world could break, but she would still stand tall. Those images haunted him every night. Alex had never planned for this. He had taken Tuna into his family's farm because it was the right thing to do. She had been abandoned, pregnant, and with nowhere to go. Compassion, nothing more. That was what he told himself. But now, when he felt Henry's tiny hand gripping his finger, or when Tuna's tired eyes lit up just a little at his arrival, something deeper stirred within him. At first, he tried to push it away. It's pity, he told himself. It's only responsibility. But the truth gnawed at him. This was love. Not sudden, not a passionate fire, but something steady, patient, and real. And yet, fear gripped him. What if she thinks I am only acting out of mercy? What if she rejects me, believing I could never truly love someone with a child not my own? What if I ruin the fragile trust we've built? Alex's nights were torn between longing and restraint. He wrote notes he never sent, imagined words he could never say aloud. Sometimes he even practiced alone, whispering to the silence, "Tuna, will you stay with me?" Only to stop halfway, ashamed of his own weakness. His mother noticed his turmoil. One evening, as he sat in silence after dinner, she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You care for her," she said simply. Alex looked up, startled. I only want to make sure she and the baby are safe." His mother smiled knowingly. "Son, compassion is one thing, but the way you speak her name, it carries more weight than pity. Don't deny what your heart already knows." Those words lingered with Alex long after. He realized he could not keep running from his feelings. He had always believed love should be pure, selfless, and brave. And if what he felt for Tuna was indeed love, then he could not let fear dictate his life. So Alex made a decision. He would no longer hide. He would no longer pretend. But if he was to confess his feelings, he wanted to do it right. Not with grand gestures, not with crowded celebrations, but with sincerity, in the very place where their story began, the farm. He went to a small shop in town and bought a delicate necklace, a silver chain with a tiny pendant. He then chose a ring, simple yet timeless, cushioned in a small velvet box. And finally, he picked a single fresh flower, a quiet symbol of the life and love he wished to share with her. When Alex held those gifts in his hands, he realized his heart was no longer uncertain. The struggle was over. The fear remained, yes, but love was stronger. He was ready. The sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and gold. The farm lay quiet, broken only by the sound of crickets and the faint rustling of leaves in the evening breeze. Inside the farmhouse, Tuna sat by the window, gently rocking baby Henry in her arms. He had just fallen asleep, his tiny breath steady and calm. She gazed at him tenderly, unaware of what was about to unfold that night. Outside, Alex stood still, his hands trembling slightly as he held three simple yet meaningful things. A single fresh flower, a velvet box with a ring, and a delicate silver necklace. He had carried heavier burdens before, but tonight, these little tokens felt like the weight of the world. Taking a deep breath, he walked toward the farmhouse. Each step felt longer than the last, his heartbeat louder than the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. When the door opened, Tuna looked up, a small smile lighting her face. "You're here," she said softly, careful not to wake Henry. Alex nodded as he stepped inside. "Yes, I needed to see you tonight." There was something different in his voice, steady but heavy with emotion. Curious, Tuna gently laid Henry in the cradle and turned to face him. For a long moment, Alex said nothing. All the nights of silence, all the words he had never spoken, had led to this. Finally, he stepped closer, holding out the flower. "This is for you," he said quietly. "It's simple, but it reminded me of you, gentle yet strong enough to endure everything." Tuna blinked in surprise, accepting the flower without a word. Her heart began to race, though she could not say why. Then Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box. His hand shook as he opened it, revealing the ring. The small diamond caught the lantern light, glowing with quiet brilliance. In her palm, he placed the necklace, the silver chain gleaming delicately. "Tuna," he began, his voice low but unwavering. "When I first brought you here, I told myself it was only out of compassion. I wanted to give you and Henry a safe place, nothing more. But over time, I realized something I can no longer deny. I've fallen in love with you." Tuna froze, her lips parting in disbelief, her eyes glistening as they met his. Alex dropped to one knee, his gaze never leaving hers. "I know Henry is not my son by blood, but in my heart, I already love him as my own. And I love you, Tuna. Not out of pity, not out of duty, but because you've become the most important person in my life. So tonight, I want to ask." He drew a shaky breath, every word carrying the weight of his heart. "Will you marry me? Will you let me stand by your side, raise Henry together, and build a life of love and peace here on this farm?" Tears filled Tuna's eyes as her hands trembled, clutching the necklace and the flower. Silence lingered for a moment, broken only by Henry's faint stirring in his cradle. She lowered herself to her knees before Alex, tears streaming down her face. "Alex, I don't know if I deserve this. I came here with nothing, abandoned and broken. You gave me hope when I had none left. And now, you're giving me more than I ever dreamed of." Her voice broke, but her smile shone through her tears. "Yes, Alex, I will marry you." Relief and joy surged through him as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then, with gentle hands, he fastened the necklace around her neck, the silver pendant resting against her skin like a vow. In that small farmhouse, with no grand celebration or crowd of witnesses, only the three of them, Alex, Tuna, and baby Henry, shared a moment that would change their lives forever. Alex drew her into his arms, whispering softly, "From now on, you'll never be alone again." And for the first time in a long time, Tuna truly believed it. Now, dear viewers, what do you think? Do you believe Alex's proposal was truly out of love, or was there still a part of him moved by compassion? If you were in Tuna's place, would you accept Alex's hand in marriage so soon after all the pain she went through? What do you think will happen next for this small family living on the farm? Do you believe Henry will grow up calling Alex father, even though they are not connected by blood? And finally, do you think Tuna and Alex's love can withstand all the challenges of the future? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of love, resilience, and hope.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đến với Tử La. Hôm nay Tử La sau những bao nhiêu ngày vất vả tìm chỗ nương thân thì Tử La đã được một người đàn ông giúp đỡ, đó chính là Alex. Alex đã giúp đỡ Tử La về với lại sinh sống ở trang trại của anh. Alex là một chàng trai trẻ, vẫn chưa có thành lập gia đình. Khi thấy hoàn cảnh của Tử La rất là éo le, Alex đã quyết định giúp đỡ Tử La. Và khi Tử La đã mang bầu thì Alex thấy Tử La rất là yếu. Khi Alex nghe thấy tin Tử La sắp sinh con, Alex đã vội vàng đưa Tử La đến bệnh viện. Và khi bé Harry chào đời, Alex bỗng dưng có một cái cảm giác rất là vui mừng và hạnh phúc. Và sau vài hôm Tử La và bé Harry khỏe mạnh thì Alex đã đưa mẹ con cô ấy về với lại trang trại tiếp tục cuộc sống thường ngày. Khi đó Alex thường xuyên đến thăm Tử La và bé Harry. Anh không biết từ lúc nào đã nảy sinh tình cảm giữa mình và Tử La. Và sau đó anh quyết định cầu hôn Tử La vì anh ấy đã yêu cô ấy mất rồi. Xin chào mọi người và hẹn gặp lại mọi người vào những video tiếp theo. Xin chào ạ.